Hey there, superstar. In this video, I'm going to share with you how self-leadership can motivate others to perform better. I would go out on a limb and say that I bet most of us would like to be able to influence others and have other people around us perform better. But the thing is that when we focus our attention on other people, what we're not doing is focusing on ourselves. And the truth is, when it comes to leadership, the most important thing we can do is actually focus on ourselves first. Remember the old parable or the old phrase, the saying that when you point the finger out at someone else, remember that there are 3 fingers pointing right back at you? That is true. Whenever you're looking to lead or influence or enroll people in something, what you first want to do is turn the attention back inward and say, how can I lead myself more effectively? And then knowing and trusting, because of what I'm going to share with you in this video, that when we do that, when you do that, then other people generally respond by rising up and doing even better. Now, why does this happen? Why does this matter? Why does it matter what we do? Why don't people just do what we tell them? Well, because we're social creatures and we have learned over millennia of evolution to communicate non-verbally, to communicate energetically. We communicate with each other in many more ways than just verbal. You know that you've experienced this as a leader, as a boss, maybe as a parent. You've experienced that people do as you do, not necessarily as you say. And so old types of leadership models were built around leading by decree or leading by title, entitlement, right? I'm the boss, so you have to do what I say. But in this world that we live in, that is a lot of those old systems and old structures have broken down. People do whatever the heck they want. And so what you want to do as a leader is you want to be the kind of leader that inspires and motivates others to naturally want to do what you're leading them to do. And so the one way to do that, one of the best ways, but not the only way, is to fully embody it yourself first. This means being a congruent leader. This means walking the talk. This means being the values that you speak about in the world. People generally respond more to what is embodied than to what they hear or what they're told. They need to see it, feel it, hear it, and with all of their senses. So how do we develop self-leadership? How do we become the kind of embodied, congruent leaders that other people want to follow, that other people are engaged with, that other people are enrolled by? Well, it starts with building self-trust. Self-trust relates back to integrity. Integrity being, in the most fundamental sense of the word, something being whole and complete and perfect. When we're in integrity with our word, that creates trust. It creates trust with ourselves. And because of that, because when we trust ourselves, we naturally feel more trustable to others. Think about it. You trust somebody who's confident and who has certainty more than you trust somebody who's confused and lost and uncertain. And so cultivating self-trust within ourselves creates more confidence, and people respond to confidence. The second part of creating self-leadership is self-reliance. And when I talk about self-reliance, I'm relating it back to empowerment, back to basically being someone who knows that you can rely on yourself to do what's needed, to focus, head down, do the actions, do the activities, and not let yourself down. It kind of goes back to self-trust too. But also when I talk about self-reliance, I want to bring in the perspective of I am responsible. I am responsible for me, I am responsible for my actions, and I'm responsible for my outcomes. That means even if you're not to blame for a situation or a circumstance, but it lands in your lap, that you rise to the occasion and take responsibility and accountability for it. That's self-reliance. You're not waiting for someone to save you. You're not the victim of the story. And that's a big, powerful part of self-leadership, which also helps people be able to rely on you, trust you, and want to follow you. By the way, this is just a little piece of what I know, what I've discovered for myself with the work with my clients around leadership. If you want more, then I highly recommend, number 1, subscribing to my channel so that you can get notified whenever I drop a new video. And number 2, checking out my leadership playlist. I talk about congruent leadership, transformational leadership, feminine leadership, all sorts of different types of leadership there. And I highly encourage you to check it out once you're done with this video. The third thing to cultivate around self-leadership is self-worth, worthiness. One of the things that gets into our way the most when it comes to leadership is thinking that we're not worthy of being able to lead people. Maybe we don't have the degrees that we wish we had, or we didn't have the education or the background or the amount of money. There's all sorts of stories that we tell ourselves about what we should be or how we should be in order to be able to be a leader. And the truth is, none of that is true. What is true is that if you believe yourself to be worthy to be a leader, you can be a leader. So many leaders have come from humble beginnings, have no high school or even college degree. This is a story that from the beginning of time, we know that there are people that just rise up. And how do they rise up? Because they believe themselves to be worthy, because they believe that they have a mission or a message that the world needs to hear. The fourth item in developing self-leadership is self-care. We can't lead others. We can't even lead ourselves if we're energy poor. And we need to take care of ourselves in order to be energy rich. This means self-care is everything from sleep to food to emotional health to mental health, all of the above. Everything that has to do with our physiology and even our spirituality even, right? These are ways that we take care of ourselves. Getting to sleep early, going to a spiritual ceremony, a church, being around people we love, having strong bonds and relationships. These are all things that contribute to our self-care. But in the modern world, what's happened is that work and busyness has basically crept into every aspect of our lives. If you've ever been up till 3 a.m. scrolling through your Facebook feed, you know what I'm talking about. That is not self-care. Self-care is creating time and space for the things that truly nourish your mind, your body, and your spirit. The last element of this is gonna maybe sound a little naive or a little woo-woo, but it is so important, and that is self-love. That is really honoring yourself, loving yourself, being kind and compassionate and empathetic with ourselves. We can be so hard on ourselves, especially people who want to be leaders. Why? Because generally we tend to be overachievers and perfectionists and people who've done really well, and we want to rise up and do more and be more. And because of that, we can be really hard on ourselves. We can demand perfection, and we can crack the whip when we don't meet our own, when we don't rise to our own expectations. And so cultivating self-love, and I actually have a self-love practice in the mornings that's all about cultivating the feelings of nurturing and love and care within myself so I can start the day with these emotions. And from that place of self-love and self-care and self-trust and self-reliance and self-awareness and all the other things I mentioned and didn't mention, that's where you can start to build true, embodied, congruent leadership from. If you are interested in taking this a step further, actually many steps further, and especially if you're a coach, a speaker, an author who wants to build up a more profitable, lucrative, and fun business, let's connect. You can find me at superstaractivator.com/go, or just click on the link below. And if you want, we can set up a little time to connect and go deeper and see if and how I might be able to support you. I look forward to meeting you.